What happens when the CEO of a hotel chain goes undercover as a housekeeper and sees a manager scream at a worker for crying? Landon Davis had built his hotel company from the ground up. Well, almost. He'd bought it from a retired couple 14 years ago, back when it was just 3 locations limping along. Now it had 9 hotels across the Midwest, all under one brand. Profitable, yes, but lately complaints had started to roll in. Not from guests, though there were a few of those, but from the staff. Quiet ones. Whispers of high turnover, especially in housekeeping. He tried the usual route: district manager reports, HR summaries, feedback forms. But it all felt filtered, clinical, cleaned up. "I want to see it for myself," Landon said one morning to his assistant. So he picked one of the hotels, his 6th location out in Indiana. Quiet town. Old building. Always broke even, never stood out. He figured it was a good place to see what was really going on. He went full in on the disguise. Dyed his salt and pepper beard dark brown. Wore thick glasses. Traded his usual button-ups for oversized polo shirts and khakis from the clearance rack. Called himself Larry, a new temp hired through a cleaning agency. None of the staff had ever met Landon in person. Most of them probably didn't even know what he looked like. That was the beauty of owning 9 locations and letting the district manager handle hiring. He arrived for his first shift at 6:30 in the morning. The lobby smelled like burnt coffee. A tired woman behind the desk gave him a quick once-over and pointed toward the back. "Housekeeping manager's name is Todd. He'll get you started," she yawned. In the staff break room, Todd didn't introduce himself so much as bark, "You're the agency guy? Great. You're on with Carmen. Follow her lead? Don't break anything." Landon nodded, keeping his head down. Carmen was already pushing a cart down the hallway. She looked around 30, with her dark hair pulled back in a bun and her uniform sleeves rolled up. There were bags under her eyes, but she smiled when she saw him. "You're Larry?" she asked. "Yeah. First day." She handed him a pair of gloves. "All right. We'll start on the 3rd floor. Just follow me. Okay?" As they moved through the rooms, Landon saw just how hard she worked. Carmen didn't cut corners. She scrubbed, wiped, folded sheets with sharp corners. She even picked up trash guests had left on balconies. Not once did she complain. Meanwhile, Landon struggled. The vacuum cord kept tangling. He tore a pillowcase and knocked over a bottle of cleaner. Carmen didn't get mad. She just laughed. "You'll get the hang of it," she said, handing him a fresh rag. By mid-morning, they were behind schedule. Carmen's cart had a wobbly wheel, and one of the elevators was down. That meant they had to haul sheets by stairwell. Landon paused at the top of the staircase, winded. "You do this every day?" he asked. She nodded. 6 days a week. Sometimes 7 if we're short. Why not hire more staff? Carmen gave him a look. "We try. But people don't stay. Pays low, hours are rough. And Todd doesn't help." Landon didn't press, but he made a mental note. They got to room 317. It looked like a hurricane had passed through. Beer bottles, pizza crusts, makeup stains on the towels. Carmen sighed and pulled on a fresh pair of gloves. It took half an hour to clean. Near the end, Carmen stepped on a rogue bottle cap, twisted her ankle, and dropped to one knee. Landon rushed over. "You okay?" She winced. "Yeah, just give me a sec." That's when Todd walked in. "What the hell is this?" he snapped. Carmen stood, limping slightly. "I stepped wrong. I'm fine." "You're fine? You're 20 minutes behind and now you're crying like a baby." "I'm not crying," she said, voice tight. Landon stood frozen. Todd's face was red, his voice sharp and loud enough to echo. "If you can't keep up, I'll find someone who can. You're not special just 'cause you're tired." Carmen's lip trembled, but she said nothing. She just turned back to the bed and kept tucking the sheet. Landon felt something twist in his chest. He'd seen bad managers before. But this felt personal. Humiliating. And no one did or said anything. He helped Carmen finish the room. After Todd left, she pulled her sleeve over her face to wipe her eyes. "Sorry," she whispered. "That was embarrassing." "It wasn't your fault," Landon said quietly. "None of that was." She didn't answer. She just grabbed the cart and moved to the next room. And Landon followed, fists clenched, heart pounding. He wasn't ready to reveal himself yet, but he wasn't going to let this slide. By the time they reached the last suite of the day, Carmen's limp had worsened. She kept shifting her weight to the side, trying to hide it, but Landon saw the strain in her jaw every time she bent to tuck a corner or lift a cushion. They worked in silence. The hotel's older HVAC system hummed faintly through the vents, and outside the windows, the clouds had thickened into gray smears. The room smelled faintly of mildew and leftover perfume. A broken closet door hung awkwardly off one hinge. No one seemed to have reported it. Landon scrubbed the bathroom sink, glancing over at her. "You sure you don't want to sit a minute?" Carmen shook her head once, not looking up. "If I stop, it's worse getting back up." He didn't push, but he adjusted his pace to match hers. They finished the suite just before 3. When they returned downstairs, Carmen checked the clipboard hanging by the break room door and signed off their last room. "All right," she said quietly, pulling off her gloves. "You made it through day 1. Landon gave a tired grin. "Barely." She reached into her locker and pulled out an energy bar. "You'll feel it tomorrow. Trust me." He watched her carefully unwrap the bar, her fingers stiff. "How long you been here?" 2 years. "Almost." "That's a long stretch," he said. She gave a small shrug. "I've had worse jobs." He didn't get a chance to respond because Todd walked in again, chewing something and tossing his empty wrapper into the corner trash. "Tomorrow's gonna be heavier," Todd said without looking at either of them. "We've got a tour group checking in. I need all suites flipped by noon." Carmen nodded. "We can start early." Todd raised an eyebrow. "You can?" "No. You will. I want carts loaded by 6:15. Then he turned and left, not waiting for a reply. Carmen didn't react. She just tossed her wrapper and shut her locker. Landon followed her out of the break room through the side exit near the laundry bins. The air outside was cool and damp, but Carmen didn't pause. She moved past the dumpsters, headed toward the employee parking strip. "I'll walk with you," Landon said. She didn't say no. As they neared her car, she dug out her keys. The vehicle was old. One of the rear doors had a mismatched panel and the paint on the hood had peeled away in circular patches. "You've got a long drive?" he asked. 22 minutes. Unless the train's blocking Maine again. He opened the passenger door for her to toss her bag inside. "You live alone?" She hesitated. "I've got a kid. He's with his grandma till I get off." Landon nodded slowly. "Hard to juggle?" "Some days. But I've got help." She tugged the strap of her bag tighter. "Anyway, thanks for covering the cart when that one will gave out. Most people just let it tip." He nodded. "You carry a lot." She didn't answer that. Just got in, started the engine, and gave him a small wave as she backed out. Landon watched the car disappear around the corner. Then he walked the few blocks to the motel he'd booked under a fake name. Inside the dim room, he sat on the edge of the bed, pulled off his shoes, and stared at the cracked ceiling. He'd seen enough poor management over the years to know disengaged behavior when he saw it. But this wasn't neglect. It was control, pressure, the kind that didn't show up in reports but settled into people's voices, the way they moved, the way they stopped asking for help. The next morning, he arrived at 6 sharp. The hallway lights were still dim, and a few of the other housekeepers leaned against the wall sipping from styrofoam cups. None of them looked up. Carmen wasn't there yet. Todd came out of the office at 6:10. "Where's Carmen?" No one answered. He narrowed his eyes. "I don't want excuses. If she's late again, that's on her." "She's not late," muttered a woman near the back. "She parks out front when the dock floods." Todd ignored her. Carmen arrived 2 minutes later, slightly damp from the drizzle outside. She went straight to the cart station, started loading supplies without a word. Landon joined her. They started on the 2nd floor this time. The tour group rooms needed a full turnover beds, bathrooms, fresh towels, extra blankets, fresh packets in the coffee trays. Carmen moved slower today. The limp was more noticeable, and she kept favoring her right foot. "You should tell someone," Landon said quietly as they passed between rooms. "I did," she replied. "Last time I twisted it. They told me to ice it on my break." He didn't ask who they was. He already knew. By 10, they were behind again. Todd came up to check progress, glanced at the sheet on the door, and frowned. For rooms left? You kidding me? We're working through them, Carmen said calmly. You've got 30 minutes, he snapped. Then I'm writing it up. Landon stepped forward. We've been moving fast. She's not slowing anything down. Todd turned to him. You've been here less than 2 days. Don't talk to me like you know how this place runs. I know how long it takes to clean up after 20 people who left their rooms trashed. Todd scoffed and walked off. Carmen gave him a sharp look. Don't poke the bear. Too late. They kept cleaning. Landon started picking up Carmen's heavier tasks, lifting mattress corners, hauling linen bags, handling the vacuum. He didn't say anything about it. She didn't comment. Later, as they worked on the last tour room, a young woman from the front desk came up quietly. Hey, she said, glancing over her shoulder. Just so you know, Todd's been complaining to corporate that housekeeping's dragging. Says some of you are faking injuries to get out of work. Carmen looked up, stunned. He said that. The woman nodded. He called someone in HR yesterday. I heard it on speaker. Landon felt a chill run through him. Has anyone filed a complaint about him? People have tried. They keep getting told to document things, but no one ever follows up. The woman slipped away just as quickly as she'd come. That night, Landon didn't go back to his motel. He took a walk around the property instead, watching the night staff reset the lobby, checking the laundry room where carts sat unevenly stacked, noticing a faint leak in the ceiling above the vending machine. He wrote everything down. The next morning, he arrived in uniform, but he didn't go to the carts. Instead, he walked straight into the manager's office. Todd looked up from his computer screen. You're early. Landon shut the door behind him. I'm not Larry. Todd blinked. What? I'm Landon Davis. I own this company. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Todd opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. What? Why are you here? Landon stepped forward. Because I've been hearing things. And now I've seen them with my own eyes. Todd held up his palms. Okay. Look, if someone's trying to throw me under the bus. No one's throwing anything. I watched you berate a staff member for being in pain. I heard you lie to HR. I saw you ignore safety issues, cut corners, and create a culture of fear. Todd's voice rose. This job's not daycare. People need to toughen up. Landon didn't flinch. And you're done here. Todd's face dropped. You're firing me? Effective immediately. You can't, I just did. He reached for the landline. Security's going to escort you off the property. The security guard arrived within minutes. Todd didn't argue again. He just muttered something under his breath and left the office, face pale. Landon walked out to the break room. The staff had gathered, quiet and cautious. He scanned the room until he found Carmen standing near the back, arms crossed. I want to thank all of you for your work, he said. And I want to apologize. You've been carrying weight that shouldn't have been yours. No one spoke. I saw what you deal with. I saw who's been holding this place back. He turned to Carmen. You shouldn't have had to tolerate what you did. And you won't again. She looked at him, uncertain. I'm not leaving things here, he continued. We're short-staffed, under-equipped, and overworked. That ends now. He took a breath. I'm staying the week. We've got work to do. No one clapped. No cheers. But for the first time since he arrived, someone in the back nodded. And slowly, others followed. By Friday morning, word had spread. Landon arrived just before 6. No disguise. No glasses. The overnight desk clerk gave him a nervous glance, then immediately looked away. A few early staff members lingered near the side exit, murmuring low. When they saw him walking toward the break room, they stepped aside without a word. He didn't greet them. Not out of coldness, but because he knew they were watching, waiting to see if this was all temporary. A show. Some corporate stunt. Inside the break room, Carmen was refilling a small thermos at the sink. She turned when she heard the door. You're really staying, she said, not asking. Until we get this fixed, he replied. She nodded once, then screwed the cap on tight. You're limping worse today. I've got an appointment Monday. My sister's covering my shift. He paused. Company will cover the cost. Completely. She hesitated. You don't need to do that. I do. She didn't argue again. Just then, a man stepped into the room. Late 40s, tall, lean build, and wearing an old maintenance polo with the logo half faded. He had streaks of gray in his sideburns and a permanent oil stain on his left cuff. "You're Landon?" he asked. Landon turned. "That's right. I'm Marcus. Been working maintenance here going on 13 years. He crossed his arms. "Todd never told us you were coming. Wasn't supposed to." Marcus gave a slow, measured nod. "Figures. So what happens now? I need to know what's broken. Not just equipment. Systems. People. Culture." Marcus looked toward the hallway. "You've got time. All day." They walked the property. Carmen went upstairs with the rest of the housekeeping team. Landon followed Marcus through the service corridors, past the boiler room, into the utility closet behind the vending machines. Water damage lined the baseboards in 2 places. One of the breaker panels had a cracked cover. Half the outdoor security lights hadn't worked in months. "Cuts started last year," Marcus explained. "Todd said save where we could. So we did. But we're past saving now." "How often were you given budget approvals for repairs?" "Once every quarter, if that." "Who signed off?" Marcus gave him a look. "Todd always said it came from corporate." Landon's jaw tightened. It didn't. They stepped outside. A section of the employee lot had crumbling asphalt. The dumpster enclosure leaned dangerously to one side. Marcus tapped one of the rotting fence posts. "Had a quote to fix this 6 months ago. Never heard back." Landon took photos quietly, stored them in a folder on his phone. Back inside, he stopped by the laundry room. 2 industrial dryers sat idle, one with its door duct taped shut. A lone worker, maybe in her early 20s, was folding towels at a frantic pace. "You work full-time?" he asked. She nodded, not stopping. 6 to 4. Sometimes later. "Alone?" "Usually." He looked around. "Where's the supervisor?" She hesitated. "We haven't had one in months. Todd said we didn't need one for just laundry. That was enough." Landon returned to the front office, asked for the current employee roster. The desk clerk, a pale young man with a nervous blink, handed it over wordlessly. Landon scanned the names. 23 active employees. 6 part-time. For open positions labeled pending. He circled 3 names, Carmen, Marcus, and the woman in laundry. Then he called a meeting for noon. Not everyone could attend. Housekeeping still had to run, but he managed to get a dozen staff into the small events room near the lobby. The room was quiet as they settled in. Landon stood near the whiteboard, arms crossed. "I want to be clear about something," he began. "This isn't damage control. This is a reset." No one moved. He turned to the board and wrote one word: trust. "This has been missing. And it's my fault for not seeing it sooner. But I'm here now, and I'm not leaving until it's rebuilt." A woman near the back, older, with thinning hair and a sharp gaze, raised a hand. "Are you replacing Todd with someone from corporate?" "No. We'll promote from within." She lowered her hand. "That's how it should be." Another voice, younger, spoke up. "What happens to the schedules? We've been covering 2 people's jobs for weeks. That ends today. Carmen's shift will be covered Monday. Until we hire more staff, I'll fill in wherever needed." This time, there were small glances exchanged around the room. A man in a dish-stained apron leaned forward. "You ever clean a grease trap?" "Not yet." He cracked a faint grin. "You're in for it." Landon nodded. "Good. Start showing me after this." After the meeting, he went straight to HR. Not the corporate office. He called the regional rep directly. Asked her to drive in the next morning. Non-negotiable. Then he returned to the 3rd floor, took a cart, and started cleaning rooms alone. He moved slow, methodical, not because he couldn't keep up, but because he needed to feel it. The weight of it. By the time he reached the final room, his back ached and his shirt was soaked through. He passed Carmen in the hallway. "You're doing it wrong," she said, not unkindly. "Probably. You left the sheets bunched on the left side. They wrinkle if you don't flatten them right away. Teach me." She did. Quietly, without judgment. By evening, he was back in the break room, sipping lukewarm coffee, when Marcus entered again. Had a call from a supplier, Marcus said. Said someone authorized a delivery for next week. Wasn't Todd. I did. Marcus gave him a long look. Didn't think you'd still be here. Why not? Most owners don't like to see what's under the floorboards. Landon didn't respond. He didn't have to. That night, he didn't go to his motel. He stayed in one of the empty rooms, the same one he'd helped Carmen clean 2 days earlier. The sheets were crisp. The air conditioner rattled faintly. He didn't sleep much. The next morning, before dawn, he met with the regional HR rep in the empty staff break room. Her name was Evelyn, mid-50s. Firm tone, no nonsense. I read your notes, she said. It's worse than I thought. I want full exit interviews for anyone who left in the past 6 months. Unfiltered. That'll take time. Start now. She nodded. And Todd. Terminated. Effective immediately. Documented and final. Understood. They spent the next hour going over policies, outdated training manuals, inconsistent discipline logs, the long-ignored safety reports. Evelyn took notes. Landon signed off on every override. Later that day, he called Carmen into the office. She stepped in hesitantly, hands clasped. I'm not in trouble, am I? No, he gestured to the chair opposite him. She sat carefully. You've been here almost 2 years, he said. And in that time, you've carried more than your share. Just did what I had to. You did more than that. You held things together. She didn't respond, just looked at him. I want to offer you the housekeeping supervisor role. Not interim, permanent, with full training support. She blinked. But I'm not, you are. You've been doing the job without the title. Now it's time to make it official. She looked down at her hands. Will I still be cleaning? Some. But your focus will shift training, scheduling, quality checks. You'll have hiring input too. She nodded slowly. Okay. Yes. You'll start Monday, after your appointment. Paid medical leave until then. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back. Thank you, she whispered. I should be thanking you. He stood, and so did she. They shook hands. As she left the office, Marcus passed her in the hallway. Promotion? He asked. She nodded, smiling faintly. About time, he said. By end of day, the staff board had been updated. Carmen's name sat proudly beside her new title. The old posters with outdated policies were stripped down. Fresh ones, printed that morning, went up in their place. Every cart was inspected. Supplies were restocked. The broken dryer in laundry was scheduled for removal. The vacant supervisor position in the kitchen, open for nearly a year, was finally posted with a wage increase. No speeches. No banners. Just quiet progress. Landon stayed until the last light shut off. Then he walked the halls one more time, checking rooms, listening for anything out of place. For the first time all week, it was quiet in a good way. And he knew they were finally headed towards something better. By the following Wednesday, the hotel was still understaffed, but the difference in atmosphere was undeniable. Mornings no longer began in silence. People greeted each other, albeit cautiously, and started arriving a few minutes early again, not because they were afraid of being late, but because the tension had eased just enough to breathe. Landon had stayed on site every night since his reveal. Most nights he reviewed maintenance logs and hiring records, and during the day he rotated between departments. It was slower work than he was used to, but that was the point. He wasn't managing from a distance anymore. He was in it. The new cartwheels arrived that morning. Marcus met the delivery truck in the back lot and signed off the order, while Carmen and another housekeeper assembled the replacements in the hallway outside the storage room. Landon crouched beside them, tightening bolts and checking alignment. You know, Carmen said as she slid a wheel into place, we used to do this with duct tape and prayer. Landon chuckled. Why does that sound like half the company's maintenance budget? She straightened up and glanced down the corridor. There's still a lot we haven't talked about. Stuff that didn't start with Todd. Then we'll talk about it. When you're ready. I'm ready now. He nodded and stood. They walked a stretch of hallway together. Carmen spoke low. There's a reason people kept quiet. It wasn't just him. It was the way things got ignored when we tried to say something. People filled out HR forms and never heard back. Others got fewer shifts after complaining. It taught us not to speak. Landon listened without interrupting. Each word was an indictment not just of Todd, but of the distance he himself had allowed to grow between the corporate office and the front line. I never wanted that, he said finally. But I let it happen. I let someone else decide what I heard. You're fixing it now, she said. I have to. Not just here, either. I've already scheduled visits to the other properties. Quiet ones. No warning. She nodded once. That's the only way to know. Later that afternoon, Evelyn, the regional HR rep, returned to conduct staff interviews. She set up in the small conference room that hadn't been used for anything but storage in months. One by one, employees entered and exited, some staying for 10 minutes, others for nearly an hour. Landon didn't sit in on the interviews. He waited across the hall where he could respond quickly if needed but wouldn't influence anyone's honesty. Around 4 o'clock, Evelyn came out, her notepad full. I finished 12, she said. 2 more want to meet tomorrow morning. What's the common theme? She didn't sugarcoat it. Suppressed complaints, fear of retaliation, favoritism, and a lot of people working above their pay grade just to keep things functioning. I'm ready to act on it. You'll need to. There's one more issue. Landon waited. 2 employees mentioned a pattern of discriminatory hiring, mostly in the front desk and guest service roles. They said candidates who didn't fit the brand look were quietly rejected even when qualified. His stomach dropped. That's confirmed. I spoke with the front desk lead who's been here longest. She admitted it. Said Todd told her directly to keep the image upscale and not to hire anyone who looked off-brand. Landon's voice hardened. Who's the desk lead now? Her name's Emily. She's gone. Today. I already drafted the termination form. I'll deliver it. No. I will. Emily was still on shift when he entered the front office. She glanced up from the reservation monitor, startled. I need to speak with you privately, he said. She gestured toward the back office. He followed her inside and shut the door. I've reviewed several staff interviews, he began. Your name came up in more than one. She shifted in her seat. If this is about the schedule, it's not. His tone didn't waver. I have confirmation that you knowingly participated in discriminatory hiring practices. Her face went pale. I was following instructions. You were denying people opportunities based on how they looked. That's not following orders. That's violating the law and every policy we stand for. She opened her mouth again, but he didn't give her the chance. You're terminated effective immediately. HR has your paperwork. She stood slowly. I was trying to protect the brand. You damaged it. He stepped aside to let her exit. Security will escort you out. He remained in the office for a long moment after she left. Then he stepped out and addressed the 2 desk agents still covering the counter. Positions will be evaluated and reopened fairly. If you've witnessed or experienced anything that needs to be addressed, my door is open. Neither of them said anything, but one of them, a young man with a tight, professional posture, gave a slow nod. That evening, Landon met with Evelyn again to review the final steps. We'll draft a new hiring protocol, she said. Interview panels will be required to include a floor-level employee from a different department. It'll help keep things balanced. Good. What about training? I've contacted a third-party firm. They'll conduct bias and harassment training for all staff. Mandatory. Starting next week. He leaned back in his chair. And the exit interviews? I'm compiling them. We'll build the next round of improvements from them. He tapped his fingers on the armrest. We need to raise base wages. And not by pennies. That'll hit the budget. It'll hit it harder if we lose good people every month. She didn't argue. The next morning, Landon gathered the entire staff in the events room. No one had to be forced to attend. Everyone showed up, even those off shift. He stood at the front, holding a folder of updated policies. I came here thinking I knew how this place worked. That the numbers told the story. He scanned the room. No one interrupted. But they didn't. You did. Through your work. Through your silence. Through everything you pushed through just to keep going. He gestured around him. This isn't the end of it. It's the beginning. You're getting new equipment. Higher pay. Real support. And we're promoting from within, starting with Carmen, now officially your housekeeping supervisor. A few heads turned toward her. She remained seated, but there was pride in her posture. There's one more thing. I'll be establishing an advisory group, one employee from each department. Monthly meetings. Direct line to me. You'll help shape this company's future. He let that sink in. You deserve to be heard. And you will be. After the meeting, people lingered. Some shook his hand. Others just nodded. But no one avoided his eyes anymore. Landon spent the rest of the day tying up loose ends. He approved the purchase order for laundry ventilation repairs, signed off on emergency maintenance funds, and finalized a partnership with a local employment agency to help fill the open roles. Before leaving, he met Carmen outside the staff exit. She was leaning against the wall, sipping from a reusable bottle. They said you used to be an accountant, she said. Started in finance, yeah? Bet they never taught you how to clean grout. He laughed. No, but I'm learning fast. She pushed off the wall. You leaving tonight? I'll be back in 3 weeks. But I'll check in every few days. Not through a report this time. Direct calls. She looked out at the lot. There's still more to fix. I know. But it's different now. Feels like we're not waiting for someone to care. I didn't stop caring, he said quietly. I just stopped seeing. She nodded. Well, you see now. He watched her walk back inside, noticed the way the door no longer squeaked on its hinges, the small things that signaled movement. And as he turned toward his car, he felt the weight of the week settle into something else, responsibility reclaimed.